This is a bill born of conversations, some formal, set-piece conversations with leaders of aged care facilities and with faith leaders, some less formal with those who work in faith-based aged care facilities, conversations with colleagues, but most importantly, conversations with residents of faith-based aged care facilities and their families. This is a bill which seeks to honour those residents and allow them to end their days in peace and comfort, supported by those who share their ethos and their faith-based approach to life. It is a bill which seeks to recognise the excellent work done by those who care for our aged in faith-based facilities and support their right to work in accordance with their consciences. And it is a bill which is designed to recognise that faith-based aged care facilities, for whom care is a primary value, should be able to provide that care to members of our families consistent with their values. Despite its name, this is not a bill designed to limit access to voluntary assisted dying. It is not a handbrake on accessing euthanasia. VAD availability remains unchanged, but the place where it is administered may alter. The bill ensures that faith-based aged care facilities are treated no differently from faith-based hospitals. It would extend to residential facilities the same rights which our legislation currently confers on hospitals to decline to facilitate VAD on their premises. It would not impede the access of individual residents to access VAD. The obligation to make reasonable alternative arrangements, which also exists for hospitals, remains. The fact that this bill would align aged care facilities with hospitals should give everyone voting for this bill comfort. We now have lived experience of the VAD legislation, and no apparent issues have arisen for patients about the ability of faith-based hospitals to decline to offer VAD on their premises. It has not been the subject of comment in either the interim or the annual report of the VAD board. There have been no reports of patients in faith-based hospitals encountering difficulties with accessing VAD, should that be their wish. This is an amendment which protects the animating ethos of faith-based aged care facilities, but does not compromise the existing rights of any residents. And this is not a bill which means that residents of any faith-based facility will be caught by surprise at the policies of that residence. There are already strong notice provisions in Section 98 of the Principal Act, and these are strengthened by the current bill. I understand that faith-based facilities already speak clearly about their values to intending residents, including their beliefs about life and their consequent discomfort with facilitating VAD on their premises. In fact, it is this clear articulation of a consistent value system which is often an attraction for residents considering where they would choose to end their days. It is a big decision to leave the family home, not just because it means you won't be hosting Christmas anymore, but because it means that you are also often relinquishing some agency and sense of control over who enters your home and under what circumstances. And a move into aged care, while often necessary, and in some cases a welcome relief from the burdens of house and garden, can be a challenging transition. A transition often smoothed by the opportunity to choose to live as a part of a community of shared values and beliefs. We tend to think of freedom of association in terms of forming trade unions or cricket clubs or political parties. But of course, it is an important consideration in aged care. For a person considering aged care, being with others of a shared ethnic or language background, shared faith perspective or shared value system can be a major comfort. And if residents have chosen to associate with others in a faith-based facility, in a faith community which does not welcome hastened death, this bill will respect this important freedom. I recognise that not everyone enters a faith-based aged care facility because they share that faith. And in some regional areas, there is no or little choice, as there are few options in aged care. This has been advanced by some as a reason why this bill should be opposed. However, this bill will not stand in the way of any person who wishes to access VAD. They will still be presented with information, with options, and in some faith-based facilities, they will also be able to have the VAD substance administered to them, because some faith-based aged care facilities have indicated that they wish to walk with their residents and evangelise them to the point of death. The bill will not compel any aged care facility to decline to facilitate VAD on their premises, but it will give them that freedom, that choice, which they do not have at present. It will give them that respect for their ethos of valuing life, which is missing now. And for residents who may or may not share that ethos, it will retain their freedom to access VAD. It will simply mean that they will be transferred to some other location, typically a hospital, for the last stage of their life. This transfer close to death is not unusual. Commonly, residents of an aged care facility who are close to death will be transferred to a hospital for their dying days. This situation will be no different. But it will be important. It will be important, for example, if a person has a shared room in that aged care facility and they share it with a person whose belief system will be shaken by the administration of euthanasia to their roommate. And this question of administration is important, for unlike Victoria, where overwhelmingly those seeking euthanasia self-administer, in New South Wales, we now know that about 80% of VAD is administered by an authorised health professional. For the roommate in the aged care facility, this looks like the doctor coming into the shared room bringing death, not healing. This would be challenging at the best of times, but even more challenging if the roommate has chosen to live in a faith-based facility and shares those faith values. It will be important not just for roommates, but for other residents of that facility. One of the great strengths of our community in New South Wales is our multiculturalism. We have residents who now make their home here from all parts of the world and with a variety of different experiences. For some, this means lived experience of forced euthanasia and forced death in other circumstances. These are hard memories as they approach the end of their lives. And for those struggling with dementia, these are sometimes cruelly the freshest memories that they have. These residents often experience these difficulties because of their membership of a particular faith and are ending their days in an aged care facility run by that same faith community. And it is these residents who feel it most keenly when a healthcare worker arrives to administer euthanasia in their aged care home. Or there is the fear that at a time of their life when they should be able to feel secure and at peace and cared for, that forced euthanasia is for some again an active possibility. Of course, our VAD laws ensures that it is unforced and that any euthanasia is freely sought and often gratefully received. But for some residents, because of their life experiences, the actuality or the possibility of VAD can be very, very threatening. And these are some of the conversations that I have had, some of the fears that I have heard expressed, some of the anxiety which I hope will be relieved by this legislation. Anxieties not just held by residents, but by their families as well. Families want good care for their loved ones, and care which will support them spiritually and emotionally as well as physically. For those families who, together with their ageing parent or grandparent, choose an environment based on faith, which deeply respects the value of life, they want to know that the idea of the hastened death of their loved one is not part of the culture. This bill will assuage that anxiety and allow faith-based aged care facilities to fulfil their unique mission. I acknowledge the argument that in some country towns there may be only a faith-based aged care facility, and the fears previously expressed that this legislation may limit the choices of some residents. I think it's important to consider why there may be only one choice of care in some of our regional towns. Generally, it is because decades ago, a faith organisation, driven by their ethos of care, made the decision to provide care in that town, and they have remained providing that service ever since. Why is their care monopoly unchallenged? generally because there is absolutely no commercial advantage in offering care in that town. Should the freedom of conscience of faith-based organisations be compromised simply because they have offered care for decades in circumstances where only an ethos of respect for others drives the provision of that care? That would be a perverse outcome indeed, if that were to be the case. Happily, our shared experience of the VAD legislation indicates that there is no problem for country residents in any facility seeking euthanasia, and the only difference which this bill would make is that, like many other residents, they will be transferred to a hospital or some other agreed place as they near death. We have had 2 reports from the Voluntary Assisted Dying Board and will continue to receive them annually. We have a yardstick. We know the rates of requests in the regions and in the cities, and in the unlikely event that any change in access emerges as a consequence of this legislation, this Parliament has the tools to address that issue. With respect to rates of request to VAD, I would draw the attention of the House to the disparity between the city and the regions. We are seeing 2/3 of requests for voluntary assisted dying coming from the regions, where only 1/3 of our population lives. I'm deeply concerned about this. If these figures show a different disposition between country and city and demonstrates an exercise of free will, it is not problematic. But if, as I fear, it actually indicates greater problems in the regions with accessing primary care and palliative care than exists in the cities, then this is a matter which should concern all of us deeply. The values driving the proponents of the original VAD legislation were a respect for freedoms of choice and of conscience. These same freedoms are supported by this bill, and I encourage members to support it. I thank those who have already agreed to be co-sponsors of this bill: the Honourable Damien Tudhope, the Honourable Rod Roberts, the Honourable Natasha McLaren-Jones, the Honourable Anthony Roberts, the Honourable John Ruddick, the Honourable Rachel Merton, the Honourable Aileen McDonald, the Honourable Tanya Mihalik, the Honourable Chris Rath, the Honourable Robert Borzak, and the Honourable Mark Banasiak. I invite any other... and the Honourable Mark Latham. I invite any other interested members to join as co-sponsors of this bill, and I commend this bill to the House.